The views expressed on Talk Real Solutions, hosted by Tyrone Thompson at talkrealsolutions.com, are the views of Tyrone Thompson and do not reflect the views of talkrealsolutions.com, YouTube, or etc. The content here belongs to Talk Real Solutions and its many contributors. Views and
Muted.
expressed by all contributors belong to them and not talkrealsolutions.com or Tyrone Thompson, the host, or etc. All data and information provided on the site is for informational purposes only. Talk Real Solutions makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information on this site and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. All information is provided on an as-is basis.
In a world where crime, corruption, violence, murder, rape, theft, and all forms of atrocities that plague the world in which we live in today, what you're witnessing, we are living in a state of chaos, and it'll take a greater or more extreme chaos to restore the order in which the world we live in today. Good evening, folks, black people, every person, non-black, or whoever who's listening to the broadcast. This is Chaos Reign here. It's been such a long time. And I do miss the conversations here on the TRS side of things. Hope you guys miss me or not, but you know. You know the links to follow me. You can now follow me on the YouTube side of things, YouTube channel, Chaos Rain Show. You can also follow me on Twitter at Chaos Rain 7. Follow my Discord service. Add me as a friend on Facebook, Eric Ray on Facebook. And what else? I also got a Rumble handler for those that are not familiar. I'm on Rumble as well. C Rain 23 on Rumble. And what else? And become a member of the Chaos Rain Show. Those are links to follow me. So, since I've been gone so far, and so much has been taking place in the last few weeks, but I would say months now because I've missed so much conversations, and you know, there are many conversations that should be have and break the ice. Now, as you know, here on the Chaos Man Show, I do not tell or advocate people say you must pick this person or pick this person to be your next head of office president of the United States. I don't do that. I don't think it's necessary because people make their own decisions at the end of the day. And I think the decision you make should be the right one and be sure that you make the proper one. In my opinion, I think you're picking both bad wings or two wings that forms a wing of a bird, the red side or the blue side. But you know, like I said, people are comfortable with who they think will get the job done. You know? I have different opinions, different views on it, but I can't speak for others. So hold on. Matter of fact, I need to type this up. Hold on. I'm trying to make sure I was remembering something that I was asking. Is hold on. Well, all right. All right. Let's see what pops up. Okay, at least not a bias. But I'm gonna put it on another search engine. All right. So now, what's the conversation? The title, as always, and let me look them out at the end because I did update some things. Let me refresh this. All right. I mean, because we are now live on the YouTube side of things. And one thing before I start, I'm noticing there's some buzzing on the social media YouTube side of things that Nick Fuentes is now gone somewhat viral to the point that he's now getting attention on mainstream media. And I'm not sure what that has to do with anything because, for I know, this young man has been on the media by himself now for how old? I think for the last maybe 4 or 5 years since 2019, 2020. So I'm not sure him being as a guest on Candace Owens' podcast in the conversation made us do overnight sensational for all other media outlets that went out their way to really bury this young man because he's talking about their same talking points. So now, why is so now he's getting the attention from others that's within the white dominant society, mostly white people, white men, white women? I'm not sure why this is now catching buzz or the talk of a lot of media outlets. I find it to be very weird, in my opinion. Because when Nick was going against the people with the little hats, it was a big issue. A big issue. Matter of fact, he said himself that he couldn't really get by because most things to function society was like credit cards, debit cards, all stuff. He couldn't get much of that, or he was having a hard time making a living because the people that run things kind of shadow ban him. So him being on a black woman's podcast, saying racist things and then doing his thing. Now he's getting attention from the real dominant society in the media. I find that to be very weird. But nonetheless, this is not the conversation. I'm just bringing out to your attention because I know this is starting to catch buzz. And yes, this was covered on another channel. I think you can find that broadcast on the Zero Ends channel. So I'm not going to go rehashtag that because they said the actual interview itself is now deleted from what I'm here on some parts of the social media. For reasons I don't know why that is because he's not going at his own group. He was going at really a black woman having the conversation. I find this weird, but in this country it's a lot of weirdos nowadays. So what do I know, guys? What do I know? Anyhow, the title for today's stream is titled "The Obama Effect." Where is your gay mentor? Now, to a lot of people that don't know, or now I see a lot of black people having issues now with this. And trust me, it's just not me alone. There are many podcasts, many people that have either a bigger media platform or just generally on social media have gotten an uproar and was really, I would say, mad at Obama when he made those statements he did about black boys and the people that should really guide them through life in the stage of what we call manhood, right? Now, y'all know me, guys. It's always better that the son should be with the fathers and have access to the father as best as possible, as soon as possible. And normally, if not during the younger stage, it should be before he touches around the tens and going as close as the teenage age. And you don't want to be that far into his development. You want him as soon as possible. Because, there's going to be a point in life, a lot of boys are going to be, they'll listen to the mother, but they're not going to really take the mother seriously. Even now with these boys now, how they're acting up now and how they're conducting themselves, personally. I mean, I saw one video particularly, one mother tried to, I guess, give his son punishment, like a what do you call it? Take away his things, maybe grounding him. I don't know. This was like 3 months ago, and the boy, and he was a teenager, mind you. He took his anger and frustrations and destroyed everything in the house. Now, a lot of people say this might be clickbait, this might be orchestrated, and I maybe assume it could be orchestrated because I see kids nowadays act a certain way. But to find that a young man will sit there and take his frustration and anger to the point where he's going to start just damaging things, it is suspect. But nonetheless, the one put it out on social media for the world to see, and it got buzz. One second, guys. All right. Okay. So yeah. So she puts she posted out there for the world to see, and I'm gonna say this personally. I think we as people now, especially ladies, you guys gotta stop putting all your business on social media. I mean, I know most people doing it because they trying to, on the average, go viral. I understand this, but there are certain things that should not be shown on the internet that's reflected in your own life. I think personal business should be staying personal business. Not everything in the world should be seen or digest about what goes in your own personal life, especially if you're a mother or in a relationship or just in general. Try to keep that away from the internet as best as possible, in my opinion. If you're going to really put anything, if we want to go there, and I'll just give this for women or just women in general that want to do this, it better if you just create a simple story and keep it as that. But don't try to what they call it. I forgot the word they call it. I don't know if it's say glorifies or make it sensationalize what has happened in your own life. I think a good story and make it just good enough. I think people will get an idea. Well, in regards to putting your actual live life experience, like literally for the whole world to consume, it's not a good look nowadays. What has happened now when you ladies do this? A lot of men and some women, but let's say some dudes that come across your content, they will use that more than clickbait. They will use it against you, unfortunately. And I know most people say, well, unless you're getting attention, you're not gaining anything, you're not growing. I understand that. But you gotta think in the long term, do you really want this type of thing that's personal in your life, this business to be put out here in Front Street? I mean, we gotta think long and hard about this. Because going viral just to hopefully to gain a greater following, which in return will gain you some revenue if you're not monetized on your social media, which most people nowadays are, especially TikTok. TikTok is probably the worst out of all platforms because too many people are putting their business on TikTok, women especially, because they more dominate that app. And all it does is this creates more fuel to fire for a lot of dudes to use against to, you know, put against, a lot of black women, in my opinion. So you gotta really be mindful of what you put out here on social media. So other than that, overall, keep much of your business out for social media as possible, the best you can. You know, I would always advocate for most people that use this platform just for therapy or using journal just hey I need to make some money. I need to just put my business. I may make money. You got to think long and hard about that personally. I mean, think about it. Some dudes, if I look at male content creators generally that's on TikTok, it's very rare that they'll grow because if they tell a story, a lot of people want to try to believe their ass, and we all know most dudes nowadays will lie on their dick. And this is an honest opinion. So I'm not saying anything that's lie, just keep it real. But yeah, it is what it is. All right, well, so now onward with the topic at hand. Let's run a clip from our recent 44 president of the United States. Oh, and one other thing to people understand with Obama, what's his name, Barack and Michelle Obama. People don't know that as a president, it is the highest form of honor any person could attain. It's like winning king and what they call queen status. You know, I think what a lot of people did not know when, especially a lot of women, did not know when Michelle had her own podcast. A lot of them were astute. They were excited and want to hear everything about Michelle, her and her I guess her gay brother. Um, yeah, and it's interesting when I was listening to it. I find it astonishing hearing talk about manhood from him especially, and I question and say, I know the highest form of manhood you do is that, but to me, in my perspective, that the best form of manhood is you try not to get poked by another man, if possible. But if something has happened to you that made you that way, which mostly that's the scenario that goes down, I always advocate, seek proper counseling help if you can. Don't think that this is the end all be all. We always gotta find ways to correct ourselves personally, because in nature, even as human beings, it is we find it in history. But if we understand the history of certain cultures and certain people, and the way how they push it now, to me today, it is not considered abnormal now. Usually, if this is something of normal nature, you do not push this in front of population of people. And from what we've seen now for the last how many years now? Maybe 34 years, 40 to 30 years now, especially in the 90s, it was a greater push for a real more intentional agenda. And we got to get beyond spookism because after this homosexual, which already has reached its plateau, the next and final stage is the pedophilia, which now you see with the stories with Epstein's demise, because he's been gone now for how long? Epstein's been gone? I think 3 to 4 years. He had a catalog of people that were a part of his,
Informational purposes
island.
only. Talk Real
We're never gonna
Solutions
know
makes
who's
no
a part of the island
representations as to
because to
accuracy,
me, promising
completeness,
figures,
correctness,
whether they're
suitability,
in
or
office or just in
validity
general,
of any
don't want the whole
information
general
on the site
population
and
to know
are
that they were
not
part of that
liable for any
so-called
errors, omissions,
ring
or delays in this
of having
information or any losses, injuries, or damages
fun and intercourse
arising from
with
its
people that is
display
not
or
legal
use.
age,
All information
unfortunately.
is
So
provided on an as-is
at the end of the day,
basis.
you're never gonna know who's in those files. Now, someone maybe in time will reveal and give you a glimpse who was on these islands when he was alive, maybe. But really, at the end of the day, you're not gonna know. I would say to most people to use their common sense and think long term. That if this man was, and think very much term, rich and wealthy, Epstein was, and he had the capital needs to do what he did, who you think that does not have the same boat or the same club of money and wealth, or even close to having like let's say six figures, or not matter of fact, maybe $1 million or more, would not be a part of that circle. That's more of a general statement you should think long term. Say anybody that's a millionaire that's put out here in the general public as famous, entertainer, whatever, you always got to keep in mind said while he was around that who not will not be a part of that. Because think about it. Sean P. D. Combs might have beat his case, but no one has known how long he's going to do time in jail. Because right now, that was over with since July, I believe. No one has known why is he still in jail. We haven't heard what sentence he really got, and the reason why because they're gonna do something with Puppy personally, and I'm not sure what they're gonna do with him. But it's ironic that he's now the face of this, and the other dude that was now gone. They don't really talk much. Only time you see the conversation with Epstein being brought about is the person that's in office. But besides that, you don't hear much talk about Epstein since he was gone. Personally. And I think I find right now people are now searching who wasn't part of the island now because someone's in office. I mean, we gotta look beyond that. We gotta look at anyone that has influence and has millions of dollars. It is highly possible they were on the island. It is what it is. I mean, they're not gonna tell you truthfully because the society does not like the fact to know that people are out here wanting people that are not of age. Person. But that's the side we live in today. So, but like I said, the pedo thing is the last and final stage of degeneracy. Once that is considered legal, which that is the last stage that, from what we've known and what was probably been talked about for the last 5 or 6 years, because if I can't recall, there was a broadcast done on this about the list about and the way they were wording of what they're trying to do as a bill, something to change either in the books or whatever. You have most of your famous politicians sign off it, and that was back in the last decade, the end of the last decade. So now we know this is the final stage. What's this? This is the final stage. All right. So now let's go on with the content ahead. I'm gonna run the audio, and let me see if I can find it. Okay, it's not biased, but I'm gonna put it on another search engine. All right. So now, what's the conversation? The title, as always, and let me look on my other end because I did. And my customer says nothing. That's weird. Interesting. Anyhow, all right. Let's run this, guys. Listen closely. And on this charge. Okay. So I'm gonna put it close enough. And this one is talking about beyond sports, borders, and boys. Michelle and Rock's conversation about what we do about the boys. Here we go.
As a society about helping mothers raise sons because they're doing it alone, and we're being told that we don't have what it takes to give boys all of what they need.
Well, look, I think you started hinting at it.
So I'm not sure.
As somebody who was raised by a single mom, not perfectly, but that unconditional love as a start is the right one.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, though, thinking about raising boys in the same way you're thinking about raising daughters, which is how do you make them good, responsible people who know how to function and know how to understand themselves well enough that they can navigate this really complicated world and setting high expectations. So there are a lot of these things that apply to boys and girls. I do think that there are some particular issues with boys that, as a society, we're not addressing. I do think, as a society, we have to create more structures for boys and men to have guidance, rituals, frameworks, encouragement, to be able to meet a wide range of role models so that whatever their inclinations, they can see a path to success that isn't just sports or money, making a lot of money. And so that's on all of us together. What I would say to Emma would be, in your community, even if you have a wonderful male partner who's in the house, I think it still would be good to find assets in the community, people in the community, friends in your community.
The reasons I don't know why that is because
places of worship, community organizations, what have you, where there are a bunch of men who can be sort of elders to boys. And so they're not just looking at one particular role model, but many. And one of the things when Michelle and I first started dating, and I'd go over to your guys' house, one of the things I loved was just, seeing all your uncles and your cousins. And there were a bunch of different kinds of men. There were men that were kind of soft-spoken, and then there were men that were loud, and there were men who were engineers, and then there were men who were police officers, or they drove a cab, right? And that's one of the things that I think a lot of times boys need is not just exposure to one guy, one dad. No matter how good the dad is, he can't be everything. And then that boy may need somebody to give the boy some perspective on the dad. Right? One of the most valuable things I learned
as he goes in on it, he's giving the context and hopefully to make a, broader point. And hopefully makes sense to a lot of black folks, the general public of black people that they caught the broadcast and gotten their feelings. But let's listen more.
I saw one video. Guy I had a gay professor in college at a time when openly gay folks still weren't out of line, who became one of my favorite professors and was a great guy and would call me out when I started saying stuff that was ignorant.
generations and destroy everything in the house.
You need that.
Now,
To show empathy and kindness. And by the way, you need that person in your friend group so that if you then have a boy who's gay or non-binary or whatever, they have somebody that they can go, okay, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
Right. So that I think is creating that community. I know it's corny, but that's what they need.
And we talk a lot about what we had with our mother and father, right? And you know, a lot of times, but we really did have a big community of people in our lives. I mean, that we don't talk a lot about that on this show. We allude to it, but Craig and I, we grew up in a huge community of extended aunts and uncles and cousins and all types of male role models, which helped in broadening out and filling in where our mother and father were limited.
So for Emma, I'm picking up a couple of things. Community, big, not just
A single mom
or mom and dad, but a broad community. And I can appreciate you using our family as an example, but uncles, but not necessarily blood uncles, but men who can give a kid or kids some contextualization of who their parents are.
Right, and what it means. And can model. Yeah. There are a lot of ways to be a responsible, respected, strong man, and you don't have to be rich, and you don't have to be a professional athlete,
and you don't have to go find it on the internet among a group of unclear influences. You know, and this is a thing that parents, Emma has to understand, is that if her sons aren't getting it,
they'll look for it.
They are going to look for it because boys need this. Whether they think that they're happy playing video games on their own, and we haven't even talked about how the rise in video games has sort of left kids feeling like, well, this is who I am. I'm alone, or I'm interacting through a game virtually, but I don't have any in real life friends. Kids are going to seek out some kind of community.
All right, excellent. Before she gets into that, make sure you guys like the stream. You share the stream. On the piece with Obama and I guess his gay teacher, I believe. Yeah, his gay teacher, right? Just to give a little more about that, right? Now I think I never had a gay teacher. Now I think about it, but anyhow, this is the thing that brought a lot outrage. And good reason. We gotta keep in mind, guys. Knowing his background, or what you either knew about Obama or whatever, or what the internet's put out here, it is revealing about us as a whole, black folks and black men, young or older, that it is mandatory. And I'm gonna be honest, that they have to push a way that, or push a narrative that you as a black man being on your, normal heterosexual, masculine or even masculine tone is considered offensive in the more dominant society. Now I mean that honestly. And really, the straight man, especially black man today, is more what we call maybe an endangered species, and also a more regular greater threat to other men. And the reason why I say is because if you think about media in general, and you look at it as a whole, because most media is dominated by non-black people, right? You do not see this emphasis or push in regards homosexuality to the more majority of this country. Now, reason B why you don't see this is because this is normally their history. This is their normal culture, in essence, as whole, especially in America. That might be one reason why you don't see them, push it much. Like literally, that's one reason. Another reason, you gotta keep pushing what we call firm, aggressive, masculine present males in front of society, and the only person that should be masculine present and a male is the non-black man, the white man in general. He is the arbitrator, the man that people look up to and say, who is actually man? Who you look up to? What is the image of man? You turn in front of your camera, your notepads, your computers, your phones, or any electronic device, and you see presence of a white man. Particularly, maybe ones that are like a superhero figure, most likely, because most people are more gravitated to fantasy. Like they want to see that invincible, that strong, that one that could take over the world, that no one can defeat him. Essence, Superman. If you look at Superman, he is the epitome of what we call masculinity. The movie itself, if you look at it, and if I remember closely, and I might have to look it up again, it came out July the, I think, 11th. We find it in history, but if we understand the history of certain cultures and certain people, if I remember it right, and we look at it, and let me see how much this movie has made so far. This movie right now, and it's not giving me an accurate number right now. I know it made more money than this. Made 34 years. Yeah, it made more money than this, for real. Especially in the 90s. They had a budget of $250 million. Right now, they said the box office is $579 million, but I doubt that's accurate because the movie came out now. Today is a month now. It should be close to maybe $700 million, maybe a little bit more, because it was making a lot of money in the first week, and it was still steady for maybe a good week or two, maybe 3 weeks now. I'm not keeping up, but the point is this, that this movie alone is Superman itself. The image is the sign of masculinity. Like most superheroes, but especially the more top superheroes, from Superman, Batman, and we can even name Captain America. When you look at the depiction of masculinity, the first thing that comes to mind is the white man and his image as the highest form of masculinity. When you hear about black men in general, you see the opposite on the average. And the reason why, because they promote it that way. They have to make one masculine, one effeminate. It's the rule order of control. Don't hate the player, hate the game. So when we go back to Barack Obama, right? And he presents so that he has a gay professor, right? Very much rich and wealthy Epstein was. We don't understand not only why you mentioned, but what image you putting out there as what is a man. Like, really, generally, what was the purpose you doing that? And I'll tell you what's the purpose. To keep the program going. That you as a man, whether you raised by your mother or both parents, it's not enough. You must be wired out. Your masculinity must be tempered with. You must show less, not only aggression, but also less mannerisms in regards to how men move and act. Because think about it. You doing the same thing that little Jimmy's doing is considered offensive. You hear the stories of young boys from the different races, from black boys and white boys, right? Regards who can move and act in a way as a boy and move in his masculine frame or in the stage of masculine frame. It's showing that you as a young male, you should move like a feminine, like a female. You should pipe down, quiet, meek, soft. Just like your female counterpart. The only person that should carry on in the masculine frame is that white boy. And that's just the honest truth. And this is a conversation that, these are uncomfortable conversations, but we have to have these conversations. Because a lot of black people, men and women, that have done content and were very offended by this. And they should be. But we had to go back in the last 17 years ago, back in 2008, up until when he actually took foot in office in 2009, up to 2016, which really is a span of 16 years ago, and the last 9 years ago when he was off office in 2016, right? That was the whole attention. That's the whole agenda. You cannot question it. Move forward. If they're gonna put a black man in front of you, he wants to pick these same characteristics that I'm laying out to y'all right now. Soft, meek, mild, less aggressive, non-threatening, and let's be honest, move like a sissy in some way. Because to the eyes of people that are the majority in this country, which is white, that black man or what they deem black male is considered safe. So he has pushed the same narrative, unfortunately, everywhere he goes, including the conversation he had with his wife. Which really the conversation looked like it was good up to the point when he made that statement in the hour mark of their whole podcast. Which the podcast, if you go back and watch in its entirety, is an hour and almost, actually it's almost an hour and 30 minutes, like an hour and 20 some minutes. So I want people to really have a real serious understand why anybody that's black has to keep depicting this type of narrative or this type of image of what a black man is in front of the general population to mostly that accept. Because this is all a form of, to me, mate guarding and really posing who is the actual man in the society. And not only the man, but who is the dominant man and who is not, and who's the one that's willing himself to be subjugated and be someone else's, what we like to call a bitch. That's what Mr. Obama did when he made that story and the statement on live broadcast for the world to hear. And trust me, there are some men personally got really offended to this. Some women got offended. To me, when I came across that episode and listened to that part, now a third time, maybe a fifth time, 'cause I heard it like multiple times, I didn't feel offended personally. You know why, people? It's because this was his overall. This is what he is overall for his time since we know he took over office, and even to the point when he was pushed to the presidency in the last maybe 18 years, maybe 19, because they say he decided to run for president after 2016, 2006, going to 2007. One of them years, right? Yeah. But if you don't understand what your place is as a man in society, a black man, everything else will confuse you. That's why he had the audacity to shame you when it was time to vote for what's his name, Kamala Harris, right? He has to chastise you because he had to keep you in your place and make sure you move like a female, like a sissy. And a lot of men, black men, didn't go. Were going with it. Unfortunately, most black men that did vote, and a lot of us did not participate in the political process during the last election. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna keep real. But the ones that did, a lot of them did what they asked for black men to do, and that is to vote for a woman in office, a particularly mixed woman. And some say she's not even black, but that's another story, right? Because the party that black people give their time and energy says so. You know, it's like having more imagery is enough for black people to really, be coddled. That's how I look at it. All right. So let me see. Let's look at something, guys. All right, let's continue to play more of this.
So big community. I would emphasize because they need to have other outlets. They have to be able to learn how to be more than just the sport that they care about. And while they get great skills in sports and they learn a whole lot of traits,
Teamwork.
It isn't music. It's not language. It's not social in certain ways.
Right.
And so I think we owe it to our boys to be very deliberate about saying enough with sports and let's try some other things.
Or at least encouraging them and exposing them to it in a way. Look, sports was scaffolding for me to pull myself into manhood. But even as I was doing that, though, my mom was still dragging me to art museums.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was still being taken to, waiting for Godot. I remember my mom took me to a Samuel Beckett play when I was like 12. And I'm kind of sitting there.
It's like, what is this about?
But you know what? I kind of got it after a while. I thought, that's interesting. I mean, it wasn't necessarily the thing I would choose to do, but the fact that I did it meant later when I was 17, 18, all right, there's something there that, you know, may be interesting. So sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, saying to our boys, you being interested in art,
but let's listen more.
You being interested in, you know, theater, that's cool. Professor.
I would also,
boys hearing that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Those are good things. So that, and I would tell Emma, you know, don't assume who your son is going to be based on some male stereotypes of what you think he should be. Really pay attention to who he's showing you he is.
This back to
All right. Let me see if I can fast forward this, guys. And thank y'all for listening. Make sure you hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe as well. I see Dr. Monica Lamb in the building. Hey, Mo. Let me see if I can fast forward this, guys. All right, I think that's good.
And how can I share this? And how can I talk about it? I mean, I think that's something you want to teach all kids.
But that takes time.
But that takes, and it takes some practice and encouragement.
And I would say to Emma and all parents, period, of sons, that it requires some slowing down on the part of the parent, because that stuff, that's not science. That's art. That you can't schedule that. It's not a formula. You have to create space
and it's not always efficient.
And it's not efficient. It will never be efficient because kids, they don't open up on time. They're not always going to have a feeling at dinner time when you're ready. So you have to create enough space, enough downtime throughout the course of a week, a month, to give kids that space to let things unfold, to let them unfold for you. And I think parents of sons have.
Oh, and one other thing, for those that don't know, as I fast forward, the other question that was put on the table, a healthier future for young men. Now, mind you, we listen to former king and queen, or president and Miss First Lady of the United States. They don't have sons, but they give them their own perspective, which is fine if you want to accept their perspective. But overall, from what I'm hearing from previous broadcasts from Miss Obama, she don't want no male sons, especially ones that will look like or potentially look like Barack for a reason. And I can't go into detail that because I did not listen to that broadcast. But I find ironic, her especially cares about the future of black boys that become men, and you show desires you want to give birth to black boys. That's not a question. But anyhow, let's listen in.
Have to understand that sons need unfolding in that emotional way as much as their daughters do.
It turns out, some of these studies are showing they may need it more.
They may need it even more.
Maybe because they're not getting reinforced in the outside world.
Anywhere else.
It does mean, though, that as men, we have to, in whatever conversations we're having with boys, sending the signal that emotional intelligence, paying attention to how other people are feeling, and also paying attention to how you are feeling, and being able to describe that and work through those things, that is a characteristic of being a grown man. And there's nothing wrong. It's worthwhile.
And that means practice that too. And that's also a message for the fathers out there, among many things. We need more men present. That's something that studies are showing. Men are not present in the lives of children, and that has is having a disproportionate impact on boys. But men have to do the self-work too. fathers, men in general, because if you're of a certain generation, we just saw it here. You guys weren't taught that. You weren't taught how to, Barack, you read about it. You were unusual in your pursuit of it, maybe because it's the way you were raised, but a lot of men aren't aware that their ability to unpack themselves and the need to do that work is going to directly impact young boys in the world, period.
I think you are absolutely right. I at the danger of sounding like the policy guy here, I do want to just go back to something I said earlier. Everything you said is right, and that's work men have to do. I think it's important not to divorce that work from some other stuff like men having jobs.
I totally agree. Totally agree. It's not an either or at all.
Exactly. But because part of what happened when we say there aren't a lot of men around.
Yes.
Part of what happened, and it happened in the Black community first.
And now
but
it's
then
trickling
now
out.
You're seeing it happening across the board. Was a lot of male identity and status was tied up with being a provider, having a job, doing a good job, coming home. And when folks started losing jobs because of deindustrialization and offshoring, and obviously this is a political show, so we're not going to go down all the reasons it happened, but it happened. And so then you had a bunch of men suddenly feeling lost because their identity had been so wrapped up in that one thing, which was being a provider. And so part of what we have to do is, as men take responsibility for figuring out how to talk about and share feelings and cultivate relationships and friendships. But as a society, we also have to make sure that men don't feel redundant and don't feel as if there's not a place for them. And there are entire communities now where the women are more likely to be employed than the men are. And they have more avenues for supporting their families. And that is something that no matter how much talk you engage in, if guys are feeling left out and not respected, then they're going to act some kind of way, and they're also going to pass that on to their sons. And we're making huge generalizations because in every community there are going to be exceptions.
But before we close this out,
all right, that's enough of that. I don't really agree about the employment process personally, because if you look at most employment in America, especially talking about Black folks, most of us reside in the government, employed mostly by the government generally. And now we see most of these government jobs are slowly automated. So now, and I think most of them were held with women. Last time I checked, because they said almost 1 million jobs were lost in the last month, and potentially there'll be more because what the government side do now, because we're now in the official age of AI, and after AI, we're going to look at actual cybernetics. What I mean by androids and robots will be the next and final stage. That you're not going to see till the next decade, because everything goes in stages. If you remember the last decade, we had a boom in internet from 3 to 4G we had in the last decade, which gave more power and rise to the so-called internet, where everything was done a little bit digitally, and people were online more, and were on social media more in the stage of 2010 up to 2019. Now we're in this decade we're in right now. We're in the stage of what is called artificial intelligence. And keep in mind, artificial intelligence has always been here, people. Don't be so clueless what was going on outside America before we start getting it. All things to innovation, and Tyra could probably explain better because he was once in the IT and he knows these things because he used to been in the government, right? Military, and most of that are military personnel that serve in the army and wherever, right? You get a whole of a lot of new tech before the general public gets a hand of it within a decade later. So, but the point is this: that we're in the stage now of artificial intelligence, and the only thing you see with artificial intelligence is going to get smarter and more advanced. Hell, your phones now have AI. Your laptops, your computers that you have right now at your disposal have artificial intelligence now. You buy new ones, right? The point is this: that we're in the tech age now. We're in the actual middle stage of the technology age, or the tech industries. Industries, really. And moving forward, you're only going to see a greater acceleration from less man and woman presence or labor to more artificial and more cybernetics um, put into play for general tasks. Hey Mo, if you dare, can you give me a call? You can call in, Mo, if you want, please. It's been a long time, Mo. And you in the investment sector, Mo, so you would know more about this because you do the insight about all what's going on in regards to investment and stocks and what's going on trending. So if you can call Mo, I would appreciate it. Oh, I didn't give the call number. I apologize, guys. I'm sorry. The call number for tonight's show, and I'll put it 717-908-1834. I repeat, 717-908-1834. It's been a long time since I did this. Access code is 917-324-pound. I repeat, the access code for tonight's show is 917-324-pound. Tonight's subject, the Obama effect. Where is your gay mentor? So now, if you guys want to call, you can call now. What else I forgot? I'm gonna look at something, guys. Hold on a second. I'm multitasking, so okay. So as I said, we're in the tech age, and the jobs you see that's losing, that is just a glimpse of what is already here and what is continuing, not to come, but what is already going to continue. Now, what do people do, especially black folks, men and women? Well, if we're not working alongside each other right now, I'm not sure what we're even talking about. We got to make something happen with each other more than ever now. And I think society is pushing us in that direction. And I think society is pushing a lot of black folks to do one or two things: think or swim. I'm sorry, sink or swim. I apologize. And I think a good portion of us are going to pretty much sink more, and there are going to be some of us that is going to swim up to the top. And I think that's how they want it to be. That's how nature wants, and that's how it's going to be intended. If we do not take action now, as a whole, not collective. And one side note, I have to say this, right? I notice with the so-called pro-blacks out here, right? That's pushing tether babble argument about what tethers are against and who FBA. I'm telling you right now, it does not matter moving forward in this upcoming century we're in right now. Especially we're in the first 20 years, 25 years now into the 21st century. It ain't gonna make or help black people survive in these coming years. Personally, especially when you know the people that pushes the purse strings and pushes society and create more of the divide that we see move forward, our intention doing for a lot of black folks in America. Because think about this: most black people, if we are foundation black Americans generally, we're not leaving America anytime soon. That's just a fact. So you're gonna make your bait and figure out how you're gonna survive in America. And the ones that's talking cash ish about black people in America, they were never invested in America anyway. Do you guys understand when someone talks bad about black people, black American generally, right? And Ari is not from here. Do you think they have a very vested interest in putting the resource, time, and money in what they know in America? No. Most of that are not from here, foreign base, what they do is they take their money on the average and they plan their greater escape out of America or any country that they're not a part of. And most of them that proclaim that they're not FBA, they live amongst black people that are where there is a small population of people that's Foundation America because really the population is not really growing. It's getting smaller. And what I mean by this is when you're a black person been here since the beginning, that trace your ancestors back during enslavement, even to the point that you reside in certain areas where black people really pretty much dominate or were from the South and some parts of the Midwest and maybe go as far as East Coast, some parts. What has happened is what the Mr. Charlie, the white man generally, what he does, and he's been doing this now for the last, 64 years? He has made the initiative to start importing people. And one of the few things he import besides his own people that are non-black, mostly from South Africa, which you hear they start bringing more now. They bring from Albania, Russia, some parts of England, French, any European tribe that bring more en masse. But you know what else he brings in small bunch, not mass? He brings black people from other countries, from Nigeria, Ghana, I think some parts of the Caribbean, either Trinidad, Barbados, and especially Jamaica, and some even in South America, Haiti, Guyana. And really, let me do numbers. You know, that's a good question. Let me do the numbers here. Let me see if I could crunch numbers in. Because I don't want to just run my mouth. One moment. And guys, hit the like button. And if you want to call in now. All right, I just put a new question out here. All right. Oh, I think I wrote that's the wrong question. Yeah, that's the wrong question. Let me rephrase that question. What number of people that are black that from America reside here in America? All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Let me see. All right. I'm gonna go with this and see what it says here. And let me check the call line. Make sure no one come up. I'm going to read this. All right. No one's calling that. Okay. No one raised their hand. Yeah, okay. All right. So let's look at this. As of 2024 through 2025, there are over 5 million black immigrants, people who are black but not originally from U.S., reside in America, make up about 10 to 11% of the total black population in the United States. Now, I think the population here and black people in America generally is what, 13, 14% of the population? That's the number they say, right? So where do they get this 10%? Because 13. So it makes me question. I'm a man that had to think critically. And I remember Irene said this best. Another YouTuber said best that the black ADOS population is shrinking. And mind you, she's married to a non-black man. She's married to a black man now, but she was married to a white man years ago, right? And I remember she had a conversation on her own podcast about the population right now of people that is considered ADOS in America is only roughly 5 to possibly 4%, and maybe now it might be 3%. From what I'm hearing. And I didn't think I would agree with that. But now when I just looked this up, they said right now as it stands, It makes up 10 to 11% of the total black population in America. So it, and let me keep reading. The overall black population in the United States is estimated at 51.6 million black demographics. Of these foreign-born black people, number just over 5 million. This includes recent immigrants from the Caribbean, Africa, and elsewhere. The fast-growing group among black immigrants coming from Africa, while the Caribbean remains the largest source region. So we can just say, give or take, people that come from the Caribbean islands is still the largest here in America. Remember, the Africans did not get their chance to come back here in America on their own merit until 1961. For those that did not know that. But before 61, people that already here already or eventually were able to come here, and it's not by much numbers, were people from the Caribbean island, for people don't know. Which is very ironic. Not strange, but ironic. Let's keep reading. Many of these foreign-born black residents arrived from nations such as Jamaica, Haiti, I think Nigeria, Ethiopia, Ghana, and Trinidad and Tobago. The share of black immigrants in the U.S. has grown from 7% from 2.4 million, and let me read that again, come on, be clear. The share of black immigrants in the U.S. has grown from 7%, which is roughly 2.4 million in 2000, to over 10%, 5 million, by 2023 through 2025. What estimated number of black immigrants from Africa and the Caribbean living outside the U.S.? And there's graphs. The estimate number of black immigrants from Africa and the Caribbean living outside the U.S. is most or not stated during the total of search results, but here's relevant information. The U.S. around is 5 million black immigrants reside there, with about 42% from Africa, 46% of the Caribbean as of 2019. That means roughly 2.1 million black immigrants in the U.S. and from Africa, and about 2.3 million from Caribbean. So that makes 5 million roughly. Globally, there is approximately 28.3 million sub-Saharan Africans living outside. Continued burbs, not all necessary immigrants. Brazil, the largest. We might have some Brazilian here, but it's mostly from the Caribbean and Africa, most likely. And this really is dealing with what is the estimate number of black immigrants from Africa and Caribbean living outside the U.S. So this is outside, not inside, outside, they say. But the ones here reside here in America is roughly, they said, like they said, 10 to 11%. And the overall black population in the U.S. estimate at 51.6 million. So we're not at 46, we're at 51 million now. So 51 million, if my map reside, I think that's now 14%. Let me check. Let me just double check. Oh, no, I'm wrong. The total black population, including those who identify as black alone, this is identifying as black alone, not with another race. We are not at 15.2%. So I don't hear nobody talking about we're 13% population. That narrative has been dead now for the last year and a half. We're not at 15%. And roughly out of 50%, they said people that are not FBA is roughly 10 to 11%. So wrapping this up, and it's a good thing I look into this. To wrap up this little portion of it, people gotta stop talking about and listen to these stupid people about who's battling against who, because we're not looking at the numbers. And this is simple data who identifies. We're not even putting equation that there are some that have been interbreeding with people that have been in this country for the last couple of centuries. So the reason I mentioned this portion of the broadcast about this tether and FBA nonsense babble is all orchestrated for people that are part of some community within this country to create some already divide, because black people already divide already, just to make money. But they're not looking at the numbers, who really is the population right now. And people that are foundation black Americans, it is slowly shrinking. And I think it shrank a little bit more for the last few years, even during the lockdown. So what Miss Irene said back in 2020 or 2021 about FBA is starting to shrink more. There's going to be less people that been around this country since the beginning or have ancestors that have been here that have not left America. It is slowly shrinking. I think by 2040, maybe, not 2050, I think before next generation, it's going to be probably down to 2 to 1%. And that's just a guess. If you're a foundation, you're going to shrink more, unfortunately. And not saying that you can't recover for this, but keep in mind the United States is continuously importing people. So that's a little insight. I want to know your thoughts or comments on that. I find to be interesting. If you think that the information might be questionable or you want to cuss me out, express that in the comment section. All right, guys. That's pretty much it for me. I guess no one has nothing to say. No one has their hands raised up. So overall, I think the Obama effect has ran its course. For those that think that your former president when he was pushing an agenda that it was all fake, orchestrated, or it had no effects on black community, you're delusional. It had its effects. He tried to push it in Africa. They didn't want to go by it. Now that he's in office and he's making his rounds now because he's not much relevant. And let me be honest with y'all. A lot of black people lost a lot of respect on Obama, even to the point that they think he serves no purpose at all now that he's no longer president, and they question his tenure as president. Which really they should have questioned a long time ago. But let's be real. They put it as a front to push the agendas, and that's as far as you gotta keep it at that. I'd like to thank everybody for listening to today's broadcast. I'm looking forward to seeing y'all comments on this broadcast here. If you're not subscribed to the C Rain 23 channel on Rumble, I advise you to follow that channel. Besides any other podcasts, you can find me in all social media platforms. Thank y'all for listening to today's stream. Until next time, take care, guys, and good night.